And you are looking at live pictures right now as we chronicle, I don't know what you want to call the guy, but as he's making his way up the Trump Tower, about 58 floors. He's somewhere between the 20th and the 30th floor. I'd say probably right in the middle. He's making his way up. You can see the windows that have been removed in an effort here to stop the ascent. There's also some scaffolding on the side. They're trying to end this. Apparently the man whose identity has yet to be disclosed, he's from Virginia, I believe. But anyway, he is attempting to get attention of the Trump campaign. I'm sure we'll find out down the road what the ultimate motivations were, but let's just hope this doesn't end in tragedy. Anyway, we'll keep you posted. All right, back to both politics and the law, which is what we focus on Wednesday nights here. I want to play a clip from you. This is former CIA head Michael Hayden. He's talking about what we discussed in the first segment, Trump's now infamous Second Amendment comment about Hillary Clinton.
Let me say, if someone else had said that outside the hall, he'd be in the back of a police wagon now with the Secret Service questioning him.
So in case you missed it, this again is what Trump had to say that the former CIA boss was referring to.
And by the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But
okay, now we did tell you the Secret Service not only was aware, but apparently they've reached out to the Trump campaign. So the first question is the CIA director right? And let's bring in our panel right now. Jim Kasturis is a criminal defense attorney in Manhattan, sitting on the board of directors of the New York City Criminal Bar Association, frequently lecturing at New York Law School, the bar associations in Queens, New York City, and abroad. Mayo Bartlett is an attorney at the law offices of Mayo Bartlett PLLC. He's former chief of the bias crimes unit at the Westchester County DA's office. And Bill Aronwald joins us, defense attorney and a former assistant U.S. attorney. Gentlemen, thank you all.
Hello, Rich.
Hello. So I start with you in that, is the CIA director right? Somebody talking openly, albeit to interpretation, I'll grant it, about something that at least some construe, if not many construe, as a tacit saying that, hey, maybe somebody wants to take actions in their own hands. Second Amendment people obviously focusing on guns. If somebody else said it that wasn't a candidate, would they be having a conversation with the authorities?
I think the Trump organization is having a conversation with the authorities, and yes, I think they'd be having a conversation with the authorities, Rich, but I don't think that they would be arrested. I don't. It is an ambiguous comment. It's an irresponsible comment. It can have an effect on unstable people out there, for sure, but more than a conversation, I don't think it would go any further.
Jimmy, describe it. Mail, do you go to the degree of dangerous? Was it a dangerous comment?
Absolutely. I think it was dangerous. It was entirely irresponsible. It reminds me of when Ari Fleischer was suggesting that Saddam Hussein should be assassinated by saying we don't need to have a war, one bullet can take care of it. And you can't say that about someone else's leader, but you certainly don't say that about a presidential candidate.
Now, Bill, and I don't want to extrapolate too much here, but what if a comment like that leads to somebody, and I mean, you see what happened in Arizona, Gabby Giffords, Jared Loughner, a lunatic at a public event, took a shot at a sitting congresswoman. What if there was a shot, and while he didn't specifically ask anyone to do it or anything else, does the exposure more than the political glare change then at some point?
Well, looking at it from the standpoint of a potential prosecution, I don't think that would make a difference. The real issue here is not so much whether or not what he said taken literally means that he was advocating or suggesting that somebody assassinate Hillary Clinton. And there is a federal statute which makes it a felony for anyone to threaten a president, a vice president, a former president, former vice president, or any member of their immediate family. So she qualifies as the former first lady.
Sure.
It also makes it a felony to threaten a candidate for office. So she satisfies that element. What I look at here is if you give Trump the benefit of the doubt, you know, it is Trump we're talking about. If you give him the benefit of the doubt, so he really wasn't suggesting that any harm come to her. The problem is you got a lot of crazy people out there.
Yeah.
And it triggers something, and somebody says, Trump is advocating that I kill this woman, I'm going to do it for the good of the country. Can he be prosecuted? No. It was a stupid, irresponsible statement, and only time will tell whether somebody basically is informed by what he said and interprets it a different way and tries to do something very serious.
And I'll take it out of the political prism. Former Secret Service folks have come out in lockstep over this, and I don't think you'd call them a liberal population by and large, and said this kind of stuff makes their jobs even harder, especially when you're talking about candidates that are campaigning in states with open carry laws and everything else. So again, without ascribing the motive to Trump, and we'll leave people to make their own determinations, it does not make it a safer environment, and already it's a dangerous one at that. Okay, now let's pivot to Hillary Clinton and a lawsuit that she is now facing over Benghazi. The parents of Sean Smith and Tyrone Woods, two of the Americans killed in Benghazi, they're now suing the former Secretary of State. The suit says her, quote, extreme carelessness in handling classified information helped to cause their sons' deaths. They're also suing Clinton for making false and defamatory statements, claiming her public comments about the attack were, quote, negligent and reckless. Here's one of those parents, Patricia Smith, at the Republican National Convention last month.
We lost 4 brave Americans who made the ultimate sacrifice for the country they chose to serve, and the American people lost the truth. For all of this loss, for all of this grief, for all of the cynicism the tragedy in Benghazi has brought upon America, I blame Hillary Clinton.
Now, the Clinton campaign released the following statement in response to the lawsuit. While no one can imagine the pain of the families of the brave Americans we lost at Benghazi, there have been 9 different investigations into this attack, and not one found any evidence whatsoever of any wrongdoing on the part of Hillary Clinton. And I guess, listen, I think everybody took to task Trump in one way, shape, or form with how he talked to the Khan parents, who took issue with how he talked about Muslims relating their late son who died in Iraq and was possibly awarded not only a Purple Heart but a Bronze Star for his heroism. So take the parents out of this. It's a human element, okay. But legally, take the 9 investigations or anything else to bring a case, just explain whether it's this case or something else. Anybody can bring a case, or there's no threshold whether or not there's fact or not to warrant moving forward enough to move ahead with the trial phase, or at least the charge phase?
Unfortunately, anybody can bring a case. The question is whether or not the case survives. And while I certainly echo, and I think we all echo, the unimaginable tragedy that befalls a family who loses somebody defending our country, the notion that this is in any way defamatory, or the notion that her possibly mischaracterizing certain of those events actually caused the deaths, I don't think it lies. I don't.
There's a bigger issue.
Yeah.
She has absolute immunity. She can't be prosecuted.
Even civilly?
Even civilly. The case law is clear on that. Any cabinet member, especially one who has responsibility for sensitive information, and Secretary of State certainly falls into that category, enjoys absolute immunity from civil lawsuit. There is an exception in certain cases where the immunity is not absolute immunity but qualified immunity, and that would only occur where some unconstitutional act is taken by a cabinet officer, and that's done maliciously. So I'm almost 99.99% certain that this case will be thrown out on a motion. And while I appreciate and sympathize with the families who lost loved ones in Benghazi, being the cynic that I am, I'm just wondering whether or not this lawsuit is politically motivated, because any lawyer who's bringing this lawsuit has to know the concept of absolute immunity.
And that's where it's going. But there's another point to this, which is let's say everybody looks and says what she did with the servers was dumb, irresponsible, reckless, whatever the right word wants to be, depending on how far people want to go. But it wasn't the smartest move, okay? Now, potentially, even though there's been no evidence to support here that it was ever hacked and a compromised intelligence, it could have. Theoretically, people that were plotting an attack could have hacked in and could have had sensitive information as to facilitate an attack and to make it easier. But the potential versus the reality are two different worlds here. And that's what the case is contending. That because she compromised national security potentially by having a separate server, that equates here with any way, shape, or form the deaths of those men on the ground. Is there anything, and I think Bill already answered the immunity issue, but even going beyond this case, if you did something that had the potential to cause it, but it had no direct impact on this specific case, does that matter?
It makes a big difference, and let's assume she didn't have any immunity. You still have the same issue because you have to have a causal connection. You've got to show an injury, but you also have to show that she was the cause of that harm, and you're not going to be able to do that here.
You know, it's going to be interesting how this plays out because I think there's topics that people
It just
hear.
brings the issue to the forefront.
Right.
It's just bringing it back up to the front page so that it's talked about.
I do think from a political perspective, you know, it would certainly make her feel very good and very comfortable if going forward the only issue is going to be these emails, and because that already has been put to rest. The FBI director has said there's no evidence to prosecute her. She's already apologized for it. You can keep bringing it up.
And I'll just put in my political realm, it's been a qualified apology, whether there's debates as to how accurately she's representing Comey's assertions as to what she did. And today there's new news that, that there were, not by her, but by people that were certainly in the ambit of both Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, Doug Bann being one of them, that he was making outreaches on the part of the Clinton Foundation to the Clinton State Department run at the time, but not to her directly, to ask either for access or for phone calls or whatever. Whether that ever materialized into anything, it just has got the whiff again that this thing doesn't work. But as usual, you see the intersection of the law and politics, certainly in election season. All right, when we come back here, the Justice Department slamming the Baltimore PD, saying it's often using excessive force and disproportionately stopping and even harassing African Americans because of the color of their skin. We're going to take a look at how the department and the city is now responding.